Jessyca Lewis. I'm in Eugene, Oregon, and Armin is in Zurich currently, correct?
Correct, in Zurich area, yes.
In the Zurich area. So tell us what that's like. Where are you? What's it like there now?
Yeah, so cheers everybody all over the world. Here's Armin, the White-Somm sommelier.
I've got the tea, and he's got the wine.
Yeah, but that is between because we have already 7 p.m. So it's time to wine. So and you have 10 a.m. So you might just want to have the tea. Yeah. So I'm very excited and thank you, Jessyca, for inviting me for the show. And yeah, I'm living here in Zurich area, precisely Uster. We have now at this time at 7 p.m. still 27 degrees Celsius, and it's so warm. So that is also the reason you see me with a white wine and not with a red wine, because this wine will more match with the pleasant hot weather of today. Cheers.
It looks wonderful. And so one of the things I'll talk about real quickly. So first we're going to talk about Armin and his background and his history with wine and the wine tours that he is going to be doing. And then also we are right now, it looks like we might have some trouble streaming to Facebook. So hopefully that will resolve, but you're welcome to ask questions. Right now we're posting on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. I think Facebook is on hold for the moment, but I think that will be resolved soon. Feel free to ask questions. We're able to answer them live. So you have a one-time shot here to talk to Armin in Zurich, Switzerland, and ask any questions. So I'll talk a little bit about Armin. And he is organizing wine tastings in the Franconia. Am I saying that right, Armin?
I'm doing wine tastings, yeah, live also in Zurich area, in other countries, also Franciacorta. But recently I was doing them online, and that was because of COVID. And the cool thing behind was I could even broaden my customer range, because if you're doing a live tasting, you can just invite the people in your surroundings. But if you're doing an online tasting, you send the bottles out before, and then you can have customers all over Switzerland, Germany, and in case of English speaking, then all over Europe. So
that sounds wonderful. So I'll talk a little bit about the broadcast and then we'll go back into your background. So the Time to Wine broadcast is featuring experts in wine, entrepreneurs. I really love entrepreneurs, social media and marketing. It's 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the second and the fourth Monday of the month. The second broadcast is live YouTube interviews with a big international crowd, and that is every Friday at 11 a.m. And I'm also now doing live broadcast and based on our time zones, some of them such as Australia or New Zealand, where there's a 16-hour time difference. It's difficult because the broadcast might post at 2 a.m. However, we're doing international live broadcasts. So this is posting live, and feel free to ask any questions. If you'd like to see more of our international broadcasts, hit subscribe to my YouTube channel. And today I'm chatting with Armin Müller in Zurich, Switzerland. He started organizing wine tasting in the Franconia region of Italy, and is also organizing wine tours. Now you're now doing one in Slovenia and Italy, correct?
Yeah, next tour will be a combined tour. Actually, I have been last week in the region in Trieste, Collio, and Burda. And Trieste is a wonderful city. If you have not seen it, you should put it on your bucket list. It is very well influenced from the Austrians, but then of course it has become Italian. And yeah, from this lovely city, which has also an airport, you have half an hour drive, and then you are in one of the hidden champions of Italy and Slovenia, and they have great wines, mostly Ribolla Gialla, which is in English Ribolla, and of course also other lovely autochthonous grape varieties. And the thing is that here, which is not so well known, so it's really worth to be discovered, and that I will do with my clients in October. And then there is another project which we are starting to have in January next year, and that is ski and wine meet the winemakers. And winemakers normally have no time between, let's say, March and October, November, but in January they can go wherever they want, and we will gather some really great names of Europe, maybe also from the United States, and then additionally sommeliers and wine lovers will join. And we will, of course, also visit 2 wineries, but we will have then 4 days skiing and in the evening having fun, having wine, bring your own bottle, so on. So it will be a unique event in the industry. So yeah, when you still have some cool names from the United States, I would be happy to talk to them, because this is a unique event which we are planning to have for next year.
Oh, it sounds just wonderful. And also, Armin, during the halftime part of our show, he is going to be doing a wine pairing with German wine. So if you're interested in German wine, stay tuned for that. And again, feel free to ask any questions. We're able to answer the questions live. So let's go ahead and get into your background. So you want to talk a little bit about your education?
Yeah, so I was grown up in a very wine growing area, but area where you drink beer normally. So I was grown up in the north of Germany. Luckily, my parents and my grandmas loved wine and not beer. So I had always seen them drinking wine. And then when I was a little bit older, I also had my first sip of wine. And at that time, it was, let's say, half dry wines or semi-sweet wines. So a little bit sweeter than you normally would drink now. But it was a good start. And then I discovered also when I was student, I liked the wine. I drink maybe 1 beer a month, but when we were in the parties, when we were in the restaurants, I always ordered wine. And then later on, when I was working in the industry, I would want nothing related to wine, but when we had the lunch or the dinner with colleagues, they understood that I have a little bit knowledge about wine, and so I always had to order the wines. And then I was starting with wine tastings, and that was the first one in Franciacorta region, which is the Champagne of Italy. Yeah, and then a certain time I thought I should make a sommelier course, and I did it. And after 3 years, I thought my knowledge about wine is so little, but maybe a little bit more than the average wine lover. Yeah, and later on, then I started with wine tours. The first wine tour I actually organized during my studies, my 3-year studies of the sommelier. And so people ask me, oh, that was so marvelous. Could you not organize something else? And I expanded. I was going to Pietro, so mainly in the Italian region at the beginning, but then later also to Portugal, to France, to Spain, to Greece, to Georgia. Georgia, by the way, cradle of wine, and that is one of my favorite trips, because there you have not only the history of the wine, but also a lovely hospitality. So, and then I grew, and I have clients from all over the world, even people from Japan, from the United States, from Canada, and other countries of the world already joined my tours. Yeah, and it is so lovely to bring the knowledge about wine to the people. And it's always a mix of wine, culture, having fun. And yeah, so that is what I'm doing. And I think that's something really my passion and my purpose.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, are most of the people that are traveling with you, are they from Europe, or do you have US citizens that are coming over, or where are your attendees
Exactly.
coming from?
So I would say more than 50% are coming from Europe, but also to my last trip to Spain, we had some people from the United States, from Georgia. I even had people from Japan, and so to France, I had people from Canada. So it's really international crowd coming to my trips.
Okay. And I love being with big international crowds. So do you want to talk a little bit about your wine education? Did you get into that enough? Do you need to add more to that?
Yeah, what I learned during my wine education. So at the very first beginning, it is a little bit like, let's say, analytical. You see a wine, so you're looking on this wine, and then you see, yeah, it has a lovely light golden color. Then you have a zip in your nose, you breathe in your nose, and you can identify which kind of aromas. You can identify the aroma on the palate, but you still do not understand the wine. And then when you are in the field, you see the soil, you can understand the climate, you see what kind of grapes it is, you understand what is the philosophy of the winemaker and what is the production process. Then tasting the wine, it is like the wine will give you the love letter and you understand the love letter. And then it will be even exciting when you understand what kind of food you can combine with this wine. So, and then it's time to celebrate. And wine is giving you so many information. The more you go into it, the more you will get from it.
Well, it's so wonderful. One of the things, there's so many things I like about wine, but I like the history. I like studying the scent and the smell and identifying what's in it. And it's interesting when it's coming from international countries because quite often there's fruits and different scents that aren't available in our own countries. And it's just such a lovely thing. Okay, let's talk about your podcast. Well, I want to ask you really quickly. So your name is the White Gloved Sommelier. So where did you come up with that name? And where did you come up with that name?
Yeah, actually, this was starting during COVID, and
we have to talk about all of the funny with COVID. Okay.
Yeah. So during COVID, I couldn't do any live tasting. So I started already. It was in March, we had the lockdown. And in April, I had organized my first wine tasting online. And I could reach people from all over Switzerland. I could not leave the country, but I could reach the people with the wines. And we made wine education online. And wine education is not only wine education, it's also socializing, because if you have then 16 people on the screen, they start also communication and conversation during your explanation. So you have to coordinate that everything is good. Yeah, so it started, and I could also expand my customer base due to these online tastings. And then I was interviewed by the boss of SuperYacht Radio, and he wanted to understand what I was doing, because I also promoted wineries in the internet, and I could reach with my posts between 10 and 20,000 people in Facebook, which is organically. And he said, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, and then he interviewed me like you were doing, but we were going a little bit also in detail, what was my strategy and so on. And we talked about the wine, and then he said, wow, would you be confident to have a own show on SuperYacht Radio, the White-Somm Sommelier Wine Show? I said, well, we could start it. I've never done it before, but and so I was then interviewing the really top wineries from all over the world. And in the beginning, if I hear this first it is live, but then it's a podcast. And if I listen to it, at the very first beginning, I would say, oh, it was not really so cool, but it became better and better. And so it's the great visibility, audibility for wineries, and it's a cool thing because it is always a problem for wine companies to get better, well-known all over the world.
And one of the things about video is the same thing. It's hard. Sometimes it's very difficult to be brave enough to just start doing live broadcasts because we're all worried about our physical appearance or what we're doing on screen. And the best thing to do is just keep going and keep producing them. And so quite often sometimes I do this 3 times a week. I get busy and I can't, but then I've been doing a lot of video and then they go around the world. So it's kind of interesting to see what happens. Okay, so let's talk about COVID. Okay, so on my side, I want to hear your side. On my side, there's been a lot of things that have happened with COVID. I think there's been a lot of innovation. I think there's been a lot of things with family. I had 2 vaccines and a booster, and then I got COVID, and everyone I knew got COVID. And after we had our vaccines, so I think I had gotten the vaccines and the booster, and I assumed at that juncture that we were finished with it. And everyone, previously, the people that had COVID were people we didn't know. Then suddenly everyone we knew had COVID after we had the vaccines. So I just had COVID about 2 weeks ago. And so I had to take a little break. It was very unpleasant. So talk about your side. What happened on your side and what did you do during COVID and how has that worked for you?
So first of all, governments decided to make many good things, but also many stupid things. So even at the beginning of the virus, for instance, it was written by the expert that chlor is killing the virus. So we have a swimming pool, a local or a city swimming pool, and this is you always have the chlorine in the water, so the virus will die, but they closed the pool, so you were not able to go to the swimming pool for so many months. And even if it was a stupid decision, you had to accept this decision. And then during the lockdown, it was also very difficult to keep fit. So I had then to jog. I had to make other programs because I love swimming. We could also not train in the gym. You could not train in the sports hall of the city. So everything was isolated. But some of these actions makes no sense, but we have to accept them. And the first time I got COVID, I even was not recognizing that it was COVID. I felt a little bit like very light flu or so nothing very special. 3 days I was not feeling so well, but I made an antibody test later on, and I had the antibodies, so I must have had it. And then I had it a second time, actually beginning of April this year. So it was really a pity because I was invited for a lovely wine region from Spain to discover it, and I couldn't do it. But also this time it was like a little light flu, and so but we have to accept what it is. The good thing out of it, I have now, due to COVID, new tools in my toolbox. I'm able to do online tastings. I also was offering and doing it then for corporations. So we did Christmas parties with wine online with the employees. So it was socializing instead of isolation. And so I could also offer new things which I wouldn't have trained or learned if this wouldn't have happened. So nevertheless, if it will happen again, I hope are a little bit more conscious about what it really makes sense and what does not make sense.
right now we're at 20 minutes into the broadcast. Would you like to do your wine tasting now? And also,
Okay, yeah.
I want to just remind everybody we're about to do a German wine tasting, and you're welcome to join in and ask questions. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you're watching, or interact with us. Tell us hi. Say hello. Ask any kind of questions you'd like to ask. I'd love to know that you're there with us. And Armin is going to do his wine tasting of German wine.
Okay, so today I've chosen a wine from the winery in Zwölberich, which is, by the way, was awarded as a best biodynamic winery in 2020 in Germany and the second best in Europe. And I have chosen a wine which is a 2020 Auxerrois. It's a dry wine. And yeah, so you see the color is very pale golden on the nose. You have a very lovely fruitiness. At the beginning, you have pears and apples, a little bit golden, delicious apples, and a bit of elderflower in the mouth. You feel a very refreshing acidity. It is not dominating the wine, it's really good balance. And then you have the fruitiness, very much citrus, again, pears and apples, but also a bit of exotic fruits like lychee. And in the aftertaste, which by the way is medium long, you have bitter almond and a little bit herbaceous character. So it's a really, really lovely wine. And we do not have the meal now because it's still too early. But in case you would combine it, I would go for something like green asparagus risotto or a lovely Thai curry, or what we had today was fried rice with pak choi. Um, and see, so this kind of food would match with this kind of wine. So it's just an introduction, but of course during the course we are doing it step by step, so people have to analyze it. I will not give the solution, so they have to find the solution, and then step by step we will develop, and we are going also what to match with these kind of wines a little bit more in detail. But just to have an idea, I think this wine is a lovely wine for this hot weather. First, I was thinking about to open a bottle of red wine, but then it's too hot, and wine should be also pleasure and not be heavy. And with this kind of weather, this lovely wine from the winery in Zwölberich is a perfect match.
Oh, it just looks lovely. Oh, how fun. This is fun. Okay, so one of the things that we've had to do with, and you've talked a little bit about it, we can touch on it a little bit more. During COVID, as a lot of us have had to reinvent ourselves. So, and I know for myself, there's been a lot of, because I have never spent so much time at home in my life, a lot of entrepreneurial things going on. So let's talk about what you did during COVID to reinvent your business. And you talked a little bit about it. Do you have more to expand on that?
So on the one hand side, I could not do any travels with my folks. Luckily, last year I could at least realize 2 travels. One was a corporate travel with the employees, and we were going to Franciacorta. And then the other thing was a private tour, which was planned for the spring 2019. So, and we did it now in summer 2020, and it was exactly the right time slot, because shortly before everything opened, and so we could start in the south of south of. Then we went to Zurich area. Then we went over Neuschwanstein Castle to Kufstein, where we visited Riedel, the very famous glass company factory, and then we went over Baden-Württemberg to Rheingau to Nahe to Rheinhessen over Franken, and then we said bye bye. So it was good, but it was 2 very hard years. But at least through my corporate events, I could compensate a lot. I was also doing in 2020 one big wine event in Zurich area. Everybody said you are crazy, but we were measuring the temperature of the people coming to our event, and nobody had COVID afterwards, so it was a safe event, and it was done with guests. So also this is possible if you are doing the things, and yeah, so it was a mixture. I was doing, let's say, zero or nearly zero traveling, but I was doing a lot of other things. And yeah, so it was not the same, it was different, but it was also good.
So let's talk a little bit about, real quickly, culture shock. So you work with different countries, you work with people from different countries. So what are a couple of examples of culture shock you've experienced? And I work with different countries and I have lots of examples too.
Yeah. Culture shock. So one of my biggest culture shocks is if you are working with our Southern Latin influenced lovely friends, because if you say we want to meet at 8 p.m., they might show up at 8:45 or even later or something like that. But this is not okay. I'm very precisely German, Swiss influenced, and that was one of my biggest shocks. And sometimes also reactiveness. If you write them an email, or can you please confirm? It took them 3 days to get an answer. So this kind of culture shocks. But we can learn from our southern friends other things. They are better in improvising things, in doing things very party, and
Yeah.
they enjoy life, and so yeah, exactly. So and so, but as I'm going into different cultures, I can adapt myself, not 100%, but as much as I can. And the other things, then if I want something really, hey, I say, please be punctual at 8 o'clock. So
Yeah. And I told you I've had the same experience because I have a lot of Latin friends. So they'll invite me to a party at 1 and I come at 1 and no one's there. So I learned that if I'm invited to a party at 1, that I need to show up at 6 p.m. So
yeah.
I had to adapt to the culture that way. Just same thing. 1 o'clock doesn't work. Okay, really quickly, let's talk about some things to see and do in Zurich.
Yeah, things I'm doing in Zurich. We have the big lake, and it is lovely to chill out at the lake. We have the river. You can even swim in the river and the lake. I have a lake 700 meters from my house, which is a smaller one, and I love all these things. And we had 2 weeks ago we had a live event in Zurich. We were in front of the opera house. They showed the operetta on the big screen, and on the place we were about 12,000 people. And we had the love to the right, we had the lovely view to the lake, to there the screen, and so everybody could bring what he wants. So we were sitting with our holiday chairs, we had some wine, we had some snacks, and something like that is unique. I think that is so cool.
I've been all over Europe, but I haven't been to Switzerland, and I'm so really I can't wait to get back to Europe. Okay, so tell everyone how they reach you, how they reach your podcast, and then we'll end here. It's about 30 minutes, and we'll end here in just a minute. But let me say this real quick. Again, I'd like to remind everybody, this will have a replay. We'll have a video passed around also. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interviews. I'm doing about 3 a week. And then also feel free to ask questions after the fact. We're able to answer the questions. Right now, I think Facebook was having some sort of broadcasting problem. I'm sure the video has been recorded, and so I'll be able to post that, but I think it will resume here shortly when I have a minute to check on that. And let's see. Okay, Armin, how do people find you?
Okay, first of all, I have my website, which is called www.gourmetwinetravel.com. Then, of course, if you Google the White Glove Sommelier, you will find so many things in Google. You find me in Facebook, Armin H. Müller, Mueller. You will find Gourmet Wine Travel in Facebook. You will find us on gourmet_wine travel in Instagram. So when you would like to connect with me, if you would like to be also interviewed for SuperYacht Radio, in case you have a top winery, or you would like to join one of our trips or something else, it's my pleasure to serve you the best we can. You find us in the meantime also in TripAdvisor. If you put gourmet wine travel, you will see top ratings from people from all over the world. So it's not so difficult to connect with us. And my pleasure to answer all your questions.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love having international broadcasts between countries like this. It's so fun. Okay, so I'm going to end the broadcast and do our closing. You're welcome to contact either of us. We're happy to answer questions. Again, the Time to Wine broadcast, I'll post this here so you can see, is the second and fourth Monday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I feature experts in wine, social media marketing, leadership, and marketing executives. And I'm also working on a podcast. I'm working on tours, and we're all working together. So it's a win-win. All right. Auf Wiedersehen. Bis bald. I'll end this here. Let me post this here.